Certainly not a night to call you ladies and gentlemen. You're part of our family. Welcome to our family reunion. This is our opportunity to bring the passion of motorcycling to this incredible crescendo and suit the heroes of our sport. Tonight is a sellout, standing room only for some. We've even had a list of waiters. Proof that MNZ is heading in the right direction, and it is great to be honouring our family. Welcome to the Motorcycling New Zealand Hall of Fame introductions ceremony. What a night. We remember people no longer with us. Remember some that have been left at the racetrack. Remember some that are still at the racetrack. We remember those that are entrenched in a racetrack and are still practicing the craft today. Whether young or old, retired or still racing, these people have done some incredible accomplishments way beyond the realms of just a good sport or our mate at the track. They've achieved feats that we cannot comprehend and beyond beliefs on the pursuit of excellence. What they have reached has come at a huge cost. Someone paid the money for them to travel the world and took their machines to perform their task. They've kissed goodbye to loved ones. They've been in the hands of strangers. They've gone to places dark and cold in the internal aim of being a champion. Today, we will call it outside the comfort zone. These people call this place their destiny, their place. Tonight we will hear some stories of the dark and cold, but I know we'll also hear the stories of their achievement, realised after the suffering to make them accomplish their feats. The reward is the ultimate achievement, and the pain becomes nothing. We will take our pilgrimage that they do and be recognised for that tonight. It is with pride that we as Kiwis salute against the odds the accomplishments that they have achieved. Bring it on. We love to hear the stories. The Kiwi underdog. We love our Kiwi flag, our national anthem. And all these people tonight have heard the song and seen the ensign in their pursuit of glory. Already we have 18 inducted into the Motorcycling New Zealand Hall of Fame, and tonight we add a further 4. It is not that these are lesser accomplishments than those of the 18 already inducted. It is just our cycle of candidates that we're through to recognise their extensive interest and their extensive achievements in our sport. I've thought around this a number of years and thought there's probably still 20 or 30 or more still there. But if you could appreciate, if we were to recognise everybody at once, they would only have 1 minute of glory. By doing it in this manner, we're able to recognise them all and truly give them the glory that they deserve back, and a special night here tonight. We encourage all of you to check out the Hall of Fame on Motorcycling New Zealand website, learn about the 6 categories, and recognise that maybe there is somebody you know that's been outstanding as a member of our family, and it should be on this distinguished list. Without further ado, let's pull a wheelie and let's get the tyre smoking for a great night tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to ask our President, Glenn Williams, to come forward.
Honoured guests, life members, clubs, and of course our riding members, welcome. I hope you've had a great weekend so far, and tonight we get to celebrate the best of the best in motorcycling. Just a few years ago, Motorcycling New Zealand wanted to sort of reinvigorate the Hall of Fame and the awards program that's related to that, and it became, well, once we got this started, it became very obvious very quickly that it gave our AGM and our stakeholders a sort of a splash of glamour, and which is what it needed. And I think tonight's turnout and previous AGM turnout has been growing accordingly. So it's great. It's great to be part of our AGM. As Neil said, 4 more great Kiwis join us tonight on this list of names that are unforgettable. If you're Kiwi in motorsport, motorcycling, it's a fantastic list, and as Neil says, growing all the time, and that's what we want. I wanted to thank Ian Dawson for his work he's doing tonight with the video camera and the great work he did just 2 years ago with the 100 Year book. There he is over there waving, got the headphones on. And he's done a marvellous job with the history of Motorcycling New Zealand and remembering all our greats that there's many to come on this Hall of Fame list, and many have passed on, unfortunately. And we're seeking to record those names as well in time. And as Neil said again, it'd be fantastic if our members take the time to look into that and You know, they remember their skills and they remember what they did, and it's important that you guys that remember them. Get your nominations in, and yeah, we're looking to respect that. Okay, getting down to business. I'm going to do a brief introduction of our inductees tonight, and then I'll be handing over to Neil to do the talk and the interviews, and we'll go from there. And our first one tonight is our posthumous award. And Rodger Freeth, I was lucky enough to meet Rodger back in the 80s at Pukekohe racetrack, back in the bad old days of Pukekohe. It was good fun. And as road races go, if you lined a whole bunch of road races up, back then at least anyway, we're all pretty bogan back then, you'd line them up and you would never pick Rodger as one of the motorcycle races, that's for sure. He was skinny as a rake, 6'2", maybe, something like that, 6'1", very tall, talked really politely, glasses, just didn't look like your average road racer. He was a hell of a guy, and it was awesome. It's with great pleasure then that I get to induct Dr Rodger Freeth into the Motorcycling Hall of Fame, and I'd like to invite Pauline, Rodger's mother, Fiona's Rodger's sister, Hayden, who's a splitting image of Rodger, just quietly. We only got to meet tonight, fantastic, and Stefan, please, Rodger's son as well. Would you come up to the stage, please?
Rodger and his brother and his sister and Fiona virtually raised me. And Rodger's room, it wasn't a room, it was festooned with wires. Sorry about that. Festooned with wires, plugged in. The electricity bill had rocketed. And every night he was out looking at stars. He wasn't riding motorbikes because his motorbike wouldn't go very well, and he came to me to ask me to sign this particular thing that would let him have a motorbike on hire purchase. So I signed it. He was at university then, and I thought, that's all right. Well, he put his old motorbike, which was a bit of a scrap heap, out in front, waiting for someone to steal it because he had it insured. And what they did was steal his new one. So we had the police come round to our little house. The boys had their own rooms, they had bunks, and the police, as they were interviewing him, caught sight of a lot of motorbike parts under his bunk. And he became then an object of sort of, you wouldn't call it suspicion, but he had to explain where these came from and had someone stolen them for him and all this sort of thing. But I'm very proud of Rodger just for the effort he made. He always had friends coming in. He used to come in with possum, they'd go straight to the fridge. And Possum's mother told me the same thing. So they lived like this, sort of here and there. And Rodger's boots used to have large patches in them where they were barely skin deep. And I had access to a leather sewing machine, so I spent a lot of time patching his boots. I don't know what to tell you because you're waiting for me to say something, and really we were just an ordinary family, but what I loved about Rodger and all my children was that they cared about other people. And I remember when Rodger was doing the speed record, the reporters were there to interview him and, you know, to talk about that. But Rodger didn't see them. He went and talked to the children first because they'd been waiting around for a while. And that was Rodger. And he was exasperating, but he just was special. But I knew there was something there when I got a note from his teacher when he was about 14. And the teacher wrote to me. Rodger came home with this envelope, didn't know what it was about. And what it was about was that the note said, would I please stop Rodger from doing his homework on a computer he's built. And I didn't know he had built a computer. They were twice the size of a big fridge. But it's had its good days, but he used to get up 10 o'clock he'd go at 10 o'clock tonight from our home, which was in Otara, Beards Road, and he would do a shift at Formica until 3 o'clock in the morning. Then he'd come back and he'd have a sleep for an hour or so, and then he'd be doing his study at the university. But all the time, motorbikes were his life. And he was just great, and you wouldn't be here unless you knew Rog in some way or another. And I'm just very proud that you do this, that you're honouring him in this way. And that's all I've got to say to you. But, you know, you're all special too. Everybody is connected with wheels under them. Thank you.
Great speech. That was amazing.
Stay right there. Yeah. Stefan, I'm going to step up, mate. Just like Eddie.
I'm
Oh, you want
quite-
to say?
Yes, please. You, please.
All right. Hey everyone, just want to say thanks for being here, and it's definitely an honour to, for all of us to be here and accept this award on, the induction into the Hall of Fame for the motorcycling for our dad, and brother, son for Pauline and Fiona here. But for me and Hayden, Hayden knew him a lot better than me. Obviously, I was 2 when he passed away, so I don't know him very well. So if, it's cool if any of you guys have any stories to come see me tonight, and I always love hearing about it. So yeah,
How long you got?
yeah. But no, I just want to say thanks everyone for being here, and yeah, it's awesome. So.
Thank you, Stefan.
Hayden.
Not really too much I can add on top of what Stefan and Pauline have said, but thank you very much for honouring Dad like this. It's a real honour for the family. He loved his bikes, he loved racing very much, and this would mean the world to him. So thanks a lot, guys. Cheers.
Thanks to Ken McIntosh. Just going to add a few little bits in it, and we'll ask a couple of questions. But as Mum alluded to, and as Ken has highlighted, a Dux at Papakura High School, achieved a doctorate in astrophysics. So everybody talked about the Dr Rodger, well, astrophysics, and he specialised in binary star systems and the black hole even before most people had never heard about it. So many years ahead of his time. While at university, he started to do his motorcycling endeavours, and in fact was recognised by the university for his sporting achievements under motorcycling. He was the first person ever at Auckland University to have that recognition. Started riding class machinery, including right up to TZ750 Yamaha and the Marlboro series. Then got sponsored and got recognised by the great Rod Coleman through Suzuki, rode an RG 500 GP bike. He, of course, then went under the, I suppose you'd almost say, the mateship of Ken McIntosh, who's joined us here tonight. Special welcome, Ken, one of our soldiers of our sport, that's for sure. Some of his achievements have been well known and what he did in motorcycling, but for me, the one that stands out must be his win at the event called the RI 500, which is Bathurst. Now, we know Bathurst, we might watch it, or certainly I'm sure there's nobody in here that hasn't heard of Bathurst. But you think of the Conrod Straight, not inside a sports production car doing 200 kilometres an hour, and not inside with all of that protection, and not with the kink at the bottom. If you remember the original Bathurst, that Conrad went straight ahead and then turned left onto the finish line, straight ahead. And he went down there on a RG 500, which you can see out here on display, and then the brakes gave out. That's the story, folks. But who rescued it and who came out of it without a scratch? The great Rodger. So when anybody tells you about Bathurst, just remind them that a Kiwi won, beat all the Australians, all the world comers on the stage there for that. That's my certainly outstanding memory that we must go to. A sponsor's dream, CRC, recognised him. And I think we've heard from Mum and realised that his talent was not just in who he was as a rider, but who he was as a person. To be recognised, he was a sponsor's dream. And for what he did in the rallying scene with New Zealand champions Neil Orpord and of course the late Possum Bourne was excellent. Who remembers the 1988 Toyota Starlet V8? Yeah, nodding your head, Pab. Yeah, of course we do. Retired from motocross after cutting his tendons in his hand while involved in a rally car incident. And of course became a professional co-driver with his great mate Possum until that death in 1993. Rodger's funeral, folks, was attended by 2,000 people in Auckland. So you realise that word legend is sometimes overstated, but it hasn't been, and it's certainly not here tonight with his family. So we've talked to the boys here tonight with Rodger and Stefan, and Stefan couldn't give us too many stories. Rodger, is there something for you? You're right behind me, so is there something for you that you can add for a story for us? Because Stefan wants to hear. Is there anything you haven't told him? There must be something.
Yeah, there's just one thing that really comes to mind from when I was a kid, and it was a saying that Dad had, and it was, second is the first loser. So always go out, always go out trying for that first place, because the rest doesn't mean anything. So, and that really was the way he attacked everything in life, and that's the main thing that comes to mind on it. So.
I've got a favourite quote that I've when I was racing I always lived by, was the stopwatch doesn't lie. And when I first saw Ben Townley riding a motocross bike in a race, it was a while back, but he made it look pretty fuss-free and fairly easy, and to a numpty like myself at motocross, it didn't look that fast. But then you check the stopwatch, and then you see that the fastest guy out there is Ben, and by some margin, because he made it look easy. There's an easy explanation for it, and it's talent. And Ben's talent was obvious from an early age. Looking at his history, that's quite clear. And when you combine talent with a commitment to hard work and a goal to win at the highest level in your sport, you've got a winning formula, for a package of a winning formula. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank Ben as well for not only flying the Kiwi flag high, but for also the ongoing work he does for Motorcycling New Zealand. It's a lot of it goes on behind the scenes, and he really does put an effort in, and he tells it how it is, and it's really useful when you got to hear sometimes the bad things and the good things. It's the way it should be. I like that style. Ben has been there and done that, and he knows what it takes to win. I'd like us all to welcome into the Motorcycling Hall of Fame our inductee, Mr. Ben Townley.
Yeah, thanks for that, Glenn. I guess it's quite ironic that you say the stopwatch doesn't lie, because I used to have many an argument with my dad about that, whether the stopwatch was lying, to be honest. And that was, I guess that's probably the best place to start is with Mum and Dad, because I wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't for them. It was a massive sacrifice that they once my goal or my dreams became goals to get to the position I wanted to be. It was a huge sacrifice, so I want to really say thank you for everything they've done, and to my sister, because it was a huge sacrifice for her as well, for everything that they committed for me to be able to follow my dreams. So and obviously I met my wife in the sport as well through one of my competitors and her brother, and everything that she's done over that time. It's been a long time since we met each other back on the side of a motocross track, and it's a huge sacrifice to follow an athlete all over the world. So yeah, thank you to everything you've done as well. And there's a few other key people throughout my, I guess, the early years that allowed me to achieve what I set out to achieve, and one of them was Mike Wilkins. He was, a lot of you all know him, but he was the owner of Kawasaki New Zealand for a long time, and his son Scott become a great friend of mine, and Mike was a huge supporter. Probably a lot that I probably don't know that he's assisted my parents with, and then twice at times throughout my career when I came home, once when I was injured, and then once when I'd taken some time off and I didn't actually have any support internationally, and he supported me both times. But probably, you know, going back through the early years as a junior motocross rider here in New Zealand, he was a massive part of that, and so was Darren Capel. He was, I guess, my coach and mentor throughout my junior years, and yeah, my father wasn't a rider or a racer, but Darren sort of helped guide me with the racing side of things, and was a huge part in that. And then lastly, to the Taupo Motorcycle Club, that's where I cut my teeth, and there's a few of them here tonight, and it's an amazing facility that we have there now to for all the riders to experience and use, but it was just a playground to me. You know, we lived in the Taupo township and, you know, residential area, and to me that was like a massive farm, and I just got to ride all over the entire area, and I just absolutely loved it, and that was, you know, the memories of that place are really fond to me. And there's a lot of people here probably just in this room tonight. I mean, this gentleman beside me, you know, there's a lot of people that I'd like to say thank you to, but I'd end up missing a lot of people, so I just want to say thank you to everyone that's helped me along my way, and I've made some outstanding friendships, and I probably was away for 16 odd years and didn't really experience a lot of New Zealand, and I've come home and been able to do that in the past few years, you know, make my way down to the bottom of the South Island and experience racing there and now as an adult, and just, you know, experience racing now with my children, which has given me a lot of pleasure as well. So yeah, I'm really grateful to achieve this award tonight, and thanks to everyone that's been there, part of my journey. We always used to have that argument.
I've got to tell you about the stopwatch story, folks. New Zealand Junior Motocross Champions Tokoroa, the late great Bob Hardesty, grandfather of Andrew Hardesty, rushed up to me with a stopwatch and said, "Look at this, Neil, look at this, I can't believe it. An 8 to 11 years class, a 12 and 13, a 14 and 15. Here's these young kids in motocross, probably equivalent to what we see with our 65s and young 85s now. And after the first, those three races, the fastest class was this little group. So if you put that in modern form, think about it, that it was the primary kids that were beating the intermediate kids and beating the secondary kids. These kids were the fastest. And we have Cody Cooper that's stepping up this weekend to race in America, who was alongside Benno in that area, along with the two super brothers, Luke and Jonathan Burkhart. Those four were the fastest riders there at that entire event. And that's why you had to check the stopwatch. We didn't have any luxury of a transponder, that hadn't even been invented. But certainly to have that stopwatch was incredible. The other memory that I'd like to relate to with Benno was absolute pure privilege. I've had such a thrill in 2004 to go to see Ben race overseas, the year he won the world title. And it all started with a big setup by some supposed friends and family. And I was at the Townley's house this one night. It was in the days of Skype, so Skype was a means to keep in contact with Ben. And to be perfectly honest, folks, it was an absolute setup. I won't go into the detail of it, but that night I was set up to make a trip, of which I said, "Ben, all the best this weekend." And somebody said, "Why don't you go and join him, Neil?" And I said, "No, I can't. I'm here in Taupo." And with that, a set of air tickets got put in front of me. It was on the Wednesday night, and on Thursday morning I was on a plane. My workmate, my boss, they all knew what was going on, but I didn't have any idea. And on that weekend, I went to the Isle of Wight, the poor man's Spain, as they call it, at the bottom of the UK. And I had the privilege of hearing the New Zealand national anthem not once, but twice. Two classes. So think of MotoGP road races, and think of two classes, Moto 1, Moto 2, and then think at the end of the ceremony, the New Zealand national anthem gets played twice. Because that's what happened with Ben Townley and Josh Coppins. And Ben won both races, and Josh won one and got second in the other. It was an outstanding. And I was invited to be one of the commentators, and if any of you folks have always said Neil Ritchie is going to run out of words, I did that day. You should have been there. But the other highlight was that when Ben came past and before he was taking his bike back, he gave me the signal, and I hopped on the seat and I did the high five with him and the other 10,000 spectators as we went back, much to the disgust of the FIM officials. But that's my memories of Benno. I first saw Benno race what is now the Northern Motorway in Auckland, which in those days was being reclaimed for land off farms, and the Rodney Motorcycle Club ran a great event up there, of which they could play with all this dirt and make a track, and he was this kid from Taupo turned up. Man, what a rider. Just 3 months later, he turned up to the Woodville Grand Prix, little guy, and in all politeness, looked like he'd had a couple of pies. I thought I'd better bring that up, and if you've seen the photos, you know it's true. And this kid just defied it. Hold on, how does this? First of all, there's supposedly other bikes here that were faster. He was still on a production one. You know, there surely had to be some hot bits on it like there was with some other riders. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, Benno. Also the fact that there were some other riders out there that we'd seen and heard of, and they were lean and they were mean, and they'd been, you know, having all the nutrition and the fitness campaign. Not this little boy. And as they say, folks, the rest is history. And what is that history? That history is part of my original words. Go off to a cold and dark place. Kiss loved ones goodbye. At the age of 15, he said, thank you, Mum and Dad, and went over to America. At the age of 16, he went to a German team. We had the privilege in 2001, many of us went to Broadford in Australia to see a round of the World Championship here. Here's this guy on a little 125 against the odds, and man, oh man, did he ever display what Kiwi courage was that day. Along with Australian Andrew McFarlane, to me, stole the show, the two of them. Yes, there was other winners on the day, the Stephen Everts and those, but it was two guys that stole the show. And we just watched Ben's rise. That was 2001, his first year. 2, 3, and by 4 he was the world champion. He just went bang, 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 bang. It was an amazing rise to the top. And then for whatever else he's done, there's been another part of that. Supercross was his love and desire, and he got to be the AMA champion and thoroughly deserved it as well. He stepped up, as he did with winning MX2, to have a go at MX1, and in his first year he was already second in the world. What was that podium that year? Stephen Everts, Josh Coppins, Ben Townley. Just incredible. With his American campaign, he went on to take the motocross scene as well, and got to be number 2 by the man that he had beaten in the Supercross section of the sport that year. He then went back to Europe and had a few serious setbacks, and that's what Ben was reflecting when he talked about the fact that he had some people to guide him, because they are some of the dark times. It's not the dark times how hard you've got to ride when you can ride, it's how hard you want to ride when you can't ride. And I think that best epitomises it. So for me, there's so much glory with this man that we heard in the Motocross Commission workshop today. He led our young juniors to go to that World Championship last year. He has an ambition, he has a desire. Things don't get in his way, it's tunnel vision, and let's look out for it. From me, from the sport as well, it's very special that he recognised his family here tonight, and personally, lovely to see Mum and Dad, Grant and Vicky here tonight, just outstanding. Sister Morgan at home with her twins, holy Toledo, what's she taken on there? Just a beautiful family and true ambassadors of this Taupo club. So it's proud that we can really acknowledge Ben Townley, folks. He thoroughly deserves and be recognised in our Hall of Fame. If ever you're looking for that encyclopedia, that guideline, that book that says how do you get from there to get to the top of the world from New Zealand in the sport that you love, and we all love motorcycling, this is your man that can say the story. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to have this man in our Motorcycling Hall of Fame. Let's hear it again, Ben Townley. You know, you just need to come back here. I know you've said a few things, but there's got to be a quick story in there as well. Come on, what about it? Is there one about a teammate? Is there one about? Yeah, there's got to be something. Think of something special. Not about Scotty Wilkins at your stag or anything like that.
Well, there's no kids here, so I can probably tell a couple of stories. I told this one recently. I went to Australia to do an event. Darren Capel took me over there, and I was 14 at the time, I think, or 13 maybe, I'm not sure. And I had a really successful campaign. I ended up winning the championship, and he got himself into a real sticky situation that evening, drank too much alcohol, and we had to get back to a flight, and he wasn't in the state to do that, so he decided I should drive all the way back from Adelaide to Melbourne. So probably something that Mum and Dad don't know, but yeah. No, yeah, thanks Neil for the kind words.
I had the pleasure of sharing a track with him many years ago, and he was cleaning up pretty much left, right and centre, and I remember thinking to myself, this guy's pretty good, and which turned into be an understatement, because 15 years of history after that showed his capabilities was damn impressive. And I've been fortunate enough to travel around the world with my business, and you bump into lots of people and you start talking about road racing, and once you do that, of course, the name Aaron Slight comes up usually pretty much every time. He is a true globally recognised person, and we're so lucky to have him still choose New Zealand as a home, and over the Wairarapa, lovely place there, new house, Aaron, done all the hard work this year, I hear. And the other thing Aaron has done is I see him regularly when we're around at meetings. He calls in, he's a great ambassador for motorcycling too, and for Honda, and he turns up, he does training, helps out with training, turns up at key events and just mixes with the crowd, shakes the hands. It's really fantastic to see him. He maintains the the presence in our sport, which is something that is just fantastic, and we're very, very lucky to have that. And so moving forward, I'd like to welcome Aaron Slight up to be inducted into the Motorcycling Hall of Fame, please. Put your hand on to these, mate. Yeah. Want to have a chair? Cheers. Go, mate. All done.
Well, yeah, thank you very much, and I'd like to congratulate the other inductees for all the great effort you've done over the years, like all those World Championship races, all those times away from home, all those big black dark holes we get ourselves into and climb out of and get out there and race and do very well. It's that's been a common theme tonight, how easy it's not. It's a hard old road, and getting to the top isn't something that you wake up one day, or when you're a kid you don't wake up thinking I'm going to be world champion. It's just a thing that you sort of get involved in something, and it takes you on a ride, and that's what happened to me. Motorcycling was my outlet because of my stature, quite small. I played all sports at school and did okay, but always was pounded by I was pounded by the front rail or something like that, and it was always a bit of an effort. So once I found motorcycling, that was my true calling. Motorcycling was an individual sport as it started out, and then ended up a very very team sport with a lot of people behind us, and I learned so many skills through motorcycling. As you heard, Ben left school at 15. I wasn't much older. We probably weren't that well educated, but travel was our education, and I think that's been a big part of my life is travel and my experiences. And the education through travel is just unbelievable. So tonight it's thank you very much, but it does feel like another life. That was 20 years ago, and it does feel like I'm doing something else now. And that my daughter here, Mila, she's 12. She didn't even know Aaron Slight as a racer. So it's does feel like another life. But the Hall of Fame, I think it's quite a good idea. I think the legend within all us here, within our racing, should live on. I mean, that legend that lives on through my maybe 7 podiums, I think you're going to mention later on maybe, or the World Championship, Ben's World Championship and the World Cup races that Katherine's won. Those legends will live on, and that'll inspire younger people to go away and concentrate and put the effort into bigger and better things. And I think here today, the MNZ, I think with having an AGM, I think it's not about the next Aaron Slight or how many spectators come through the gate. It's about having fun. That's where Ben, Katherine, myself, Roger would have started. It wasn't about being world champion. It was about having fun. And those dreams, they come after. You tick off one achievement, and then you move on to the next, and then things open doors, and then you're away. So I think that's what motorcycling should be. It should be about fun, and I'm still enjoying motorcycling today, and going to races and seeing young kids trying hard, it's really rewarding. So thank you very much, and it's been a long time coming for me to come back to MNZ. I do sort of kick around the paddock, but I really find it hard to go to racetracks. You don't know how hard it is to watch other people having fun. It's the worst thing in the world. So thank you very much, and within this room there's so many legends, and I think they should remain. I have a little story probably about Rodger, actually, because Rodger was sort of just getting out of racing when I was getting into it, and I can always remember turning up to Manfield, mainly Manfield because it was my home track, and I'd see his gleaming Macintosh bike sitting there, really tricky, the only sort of real F1 bike in the paddock, and there was us all blasting around on F1 bikes, and Rodger would win some races and he would lose some races, but as you've heard tonight, he was really calculating, so he'd win the championship because he'd have it worked out. And I can remember going to Wanganui Boxing Day, and this day I actually beat Rodger, and I was on a production bike, but Rodger was the only guy on wets because it was raining. The rest of the guys were on slicks because they didn't have a plug. He'd worked it out. I don't know. He probably had a radar detector then or something for rain. But the rain stopped halfway through, and me on my production tyres came through at the end. So that was one of my dreams, was to crack the big time, and I beat Rodger that day. So that was one of my childhood dreams. So that's where I think these legends should live on. Thank you.
Thank you for the stories, Aaron. I'd like to ask Mick Rowan to come up with the presentation.
Thank you, everyone. I don't know if you know that I'm a car dealer. Okay. One minute while I adjust my fin. Okay. I think probably for all of us that are passionate about road racing, Aaron was our hero, and staying up at night watching World Superbikes was just, and I mean, he had a scene at Sugo with Neil Hodgson. I would have punched Neil Hodgson in the head for him. But yeah, so I work for Honda New Zealand, and we're a little bit different in this country, where the car side of the business is actually Honda Motor Company Japan, and the bike side is an independent distributor through Blue Wing. So I talked to my boss and said, I'm coming here tonight, and he said, he's Japanese, please give our presentation from Honda. So I had to give him this presentation, so, and that was his good English, okay? So they've got a little thing for him here, for Aaron. I'll just read it out what he said. Well, I'd sort of help with a bit of the script, because I think for all of us, it's the mark of a man is not how he handles the good times, but the bad times. And Aaron had some medical issues he had to deal with, and some things happened in his life, and he's come out the other side of that with Megan and Mila, and just really shown the calibre of guy that he is. And just a little thing on behalf of Honda New Zealand, Aaron, from all the Honda New Zealand associates, congratulations on your induction into the Motorcycling New Zealand Hall of Fame. After many wins and the trials and tribulations you have overcome, this recognition is extremely well deserved. Aaron, you truly reflect the challenging spirit of Honda. We wish Megan, Mila and yourself a prosperous and happy future. Thank you, mate. Okay.
I thought Mick was just giving a prize for beating him through the Rimatuckers.
Indeed, as we acknowledge some of our other Hall of Famers, and to make no discredit to them, we acknowledge people with race victories along the way that are in the units or in the tens, and as Aaron has talked about, third in World Superbikes 93, 94, 95, 97, fourth in 99, sixth in 92, eighth in 2000, 250 New Zealand champion, 2 times winner of Castrol 6 Hour.
I think you forgot the seconds.
Oh, sorry. Oh, and the seconds are okay. 3 times winner of Suzuka 8 Hour, and I hear that record's only just now been equalled as well, so the long time credit of that one. But let's go back to World Superbikes, folks. 8 pole positions, 13 wins, 87 podiums, and 26 fastest laps, and twice runner-up. Here.
And I do hear Roger ringing in my ear. Second is the first loser, but you've got to have a go.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, well, I suppose the story with it for me personally is in the days before we had sort of had the Sky TV package that it was a little bit of an exclusive club. And I remember taking my family to a local hotel and disguising my kids as somebody hiding under the table as we hopefully watched Aaron and his feats, of which he couldn't quite do. But when you learnt the stories afterwards of some of his teammates, a particular Carl Fogarty, who is perhaps now, even as we learned afterwards, not liked by his home country. We learn about the John Kosinski stories, and it actually makes today's efforts of people with mental illness look quite polite about things. And the other stories go on, but I think what I'm trying to highlight with this is that this guy was the greatest ambassador for, at the time, the world's greatest brand. And that's why, as Mick alluded to, that we're talking about the name so respected around the world. So when we put up our marks and we put up those that have raced in our favourite sport, to me, ladies and gentlemen, there isn't any better than shine the light of this man. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Aaron Slight.
The next Hall of Fame inductee, she's done it the hard way many times, and it's an impressive young lady. I've read her story, and she came and talked with us at the Te Papa for the 100-year celebration of Motorcycling New Zealand, and it was a great presentation. And she was a lady, as Mick alluded to, when the chips are down, she was able to ride injured, and it's tough to do, and it's tough to dig deep, and then you dig a bit deeper, and that's not easy to do. And our superstars know how hard that is. And she rode at a time when women in motorcycling, the FIM today and federations around the world are really pushing for women to come into motorcycling and promoting wherever possible, and it's something we all want to do. But she was just before that time in some respects, and she forged a way ahead, and she rode incredibly well. And in New Zealand, she rode against the guys and thrashed them many a time, I hear, much to their depression. But I'm sure that was great groundbreaking stuff to do, and it taught her a lot of lessons along the way, I'm sure. So I'd like to welcome to the Motorcycling Hall of Fame our first lady, I believe. Yeah. Yes, Katherine Oberlin-Brown.
Oh, it makes me a bit emotional hearing all of that. Where do I even start? Yeah, first of all, big congrats to all the other inductees. When I saw the list of all the other inductees that were getting done at the same time, what an amazing night to be inducted. Aaron, I can remember as a 8-9-year-old, sitting with my parents, staying up at night watching your races, and Ben, obviously you were just ahead of my world championship and kind of led the way in terms of motivating me to get to that level, seeing another Kiwi rise to the top. But yeah, I guess where to start, I was just a girl that loved racing. My parents got me into it as a way for our family to meet a lot of other Kiwis, having come from South Africa, and for 6 months I was just dragged around the track as a spectator, and I decided that wasn't for me. And eventually my parents got me a bike, and I loved it from the get-go. And as a 14-year-old, I got to experience my first international race, and prove to myself that I was, better. Well, I was better than I thought I was, and really set alight a dream to become world champion before the age of 20. And I went to do that twice, which seems so long ago now. And there's a couple of really important people that I need to thank that made that possible. My father's not around anymore, but he was he was a massive reason as to why I got where I did. My mum, my brother always jokes, he came to the Molson Kawasaki team. They organised for him to have a bike for 4 weeks when I was defending my world championship, and he missed 4 weeks of calculus and failed it at the end of the year. He is actually a civil engineer that graduated top 5% at Auckland Uni, so clearly it didn't matter, but he always held it against me that he failed calculus that year, having come with me. But yeah, without my family and my brother, I would not be here today. And my husband's support, he unfortunately never got to see me ride because I broke my back the same weekend that we got together. But he's been a huge part of my life since then. And there's a couple of special people within the industry that have really guided me along my way. Ben's mentioned him before, Mike Wilkins. I rode for Kawasaki for 10 years. Mike was MC at my wedding, and it was a family environment that I just love being a part of, and I think that's a big reason as to why I was successful on the world stage with them. Mike Ramsey, I'm sure many of you know him. He was with us right from day one, and I also have to give a big shout out to Nick Ewan. He helped coach me through my later years, and he, like my dad, wasn't afraid to tell me when I was riding like a girl, so that was, a big part of how I got to be successful. And yeah, there's so many people that helped along the way. I think everyone tonight's alluded to, it's by no means an individual feat. It's a huge team effort, and I couldn't have done it. And a big thanks to MNZ for all your help with making this possible tonight. I'm absolutely honoured. It's, massive achievement. Thank you.
Here, it's certainly leading the way for our woman, and Katherine, for me, whole shots at Woodville Motocross. Man, I will never ever forget those. When you've got a field of 39 other males out there that think they can be the best at our New Zealand Grand Prix, and she smoked them not once but twice on the day. A memory I'll never forget. It was so good, and the crowd went absolutely wild, as you know, a good Woodville crowd to do. So some great moments there. For the fact that Brother Matthew, what a meticulous rider he was as well, it was in the family. And I've got to say, folks, if you just thought of her sincere words about her father, what a perfectionist he was, but Mother Helen, what a dynamic lady she was, and the way that she led, and the way that she led me, because there was a celebrity race at Taupo and she beat me. And I say to this day, Helen, you were a fine woman off the track and you were a damn one on the track. And she was only on an XR 200 as well. Man, I should have, but no, that's how good the Prumm family were. And so for me, it was the standard that we got when we realised that women could rise to the top in New Zealand, and all of a sudden we started to see the best of this. So when it was for Katherine to go to this World Cup, well, how are we going to compare? What are we like from New Zealand? What's our motocross background? How are we going to go? And here's Katherine standing on that world stage. These were the inaugural events of women. This was before women were recognised in road racing or speedway or many other parts of our sport. So Katherine effectively was the first woman world champion, full stop. And now, as you'll hear from Glenn, of what the FIM are doing to recognise women, and what tonight, about what time, Christopher? 2:45? Yeah, 4:45. 4:45 tomorrow morning. Courtney Duncan will be in Portugal, so hope you're all going to keep an eye out for Courts and see what she's capable of doing, as we know, great feats. But we've had, of course, Avalon win World Women's Racing, and with what's happened with women, we are the leaders. And let's not hold back New Zealand and be a proud Kiwi moment as we talk about our ensign and our anthem. We were the first to give the woman the vote, and in a world-class society that gets women a hard time by some countries, they can get recognised. But how? Because they stand out. And Katherine, and I still call her Katherine Prumm to this day, Katherine, because that's all I never got to commentate you as a married woman, so I can't get the Oberlin-Brown sort of flowing the same. But for me, it was just fantastic. So when she said before, let's not underestimate that, she said when she was 14 that she wanted to be a world champion before she was 20. She was already twice world champion at the age of 18, folks. So it was just an outstanding feat. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's an absolute delight to have our first woman, and I'm sure in years to come there'll be many others. But she led the way for the world of motorcycle sport with FIM. She leads it in our Hall of Fame here in little old New Zealand tonight. Let's again congratulate Katherine Oberlin-Brown. Good night, everybody. Thank you very much.